Today I want to talk about just having a kid in general. At my age, I'm 28, and we have 2 kids. And let's just talk about having our first kid, just to start it off. Where do I start? I guess start about pregnancy, right? Finding out. It was a shock, to say the least, because we had been married for only 2 months. Not even, it was 1.5 months. Got married on the 17th of December and then found out February 3rd, I think, 3rd or 4th of the next year. So yeah, it was like a month and a half that we've been married and we found out. So yeah, just thinking about how there's this little life that is half of you. It's surreal in some ways. It's kind of shocking, and you know, I'll dedicate a whole video just to talking about how to deal with pregnancy as a man. But yeah, just walking through that entire pregnancy process with Ashlyn, and everything that she was dealing with. And you know, something that people don't talk about is men actually have physical changes that happen to them as well. So I didn't know that until I started noticing some things in myself, and then I looked up stuff, and then there's there's precedence behind sympathetic pregnancy, and you know, men actually have hormonal changes, and there's like a decrease in testosterone to help with bonding once the baby's born. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that goes into it, but people don't necessarily talk about that. And I want to touch on that, but I want to dedicate a whole video just to that, just to dealing with that as a man. So fast forward to Sarai being born. You know, it was a whole experience. Ashlyn, you know, went into labor that Sunday morning. Early in the morning, it was like 1 or 2 a.m. that she felt as though she was having contractions, but she didn't think anything of it because they weren't consistent. And so she slept until about 7:30, 8 o'clock. And she said 2 things. She said, 1, I think we're going to meet Sarai today. And 2, can you make me some waffles? She really liked Eggo waffles at the time. She still does. So, yeah, you know, early labor, active labor, transition, and then pushing, that whole experience is going to be in that pregnancy video that I'm going to talk about at a later date. But yeah, once I saw Sarai for the first time, you know, you see all these videos of men crying and, you know, them just like breaking down. Some of them pass out from either standing too long or they really have that much of an emotional response, they just pass out. It was still surreal to me. It didn't really hit that, you know, she was my daughter. I don't know why. It felt like, you know, I haven't really had a lot of experiences of men talking about how fatherhood hit them, at least directly, right? I've seen indirect responses. I've seen, you know, people in their personal accounts, but I haven't heard somebody talk directly to me that I knew about how to walk into fatherhood and really hold on to that mantle fully. So I held her for the first time, and, you know, she's this tiny, fragile person. And she's half of me, half of Ashlyn, but she's all herself. And it's like the physical side is both of us, but then there's a spiritual side that's like, this is God's breath, this is God's little light. This is the new representation, the newest representation of God, right? And so I'm trying to take everything in. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, so the entire last 10 months have been an experience of just trying to figure out how to deal with this week in pregnancy. And now we're like, okay, well, that season's technically ended. So now we're having to figure out how to be parents while Ashlyn's in postpartum, week by week, day by day. So, yeah, watching her grow and seeing her come into all of these expressions that she has, and seeing how, you know, there's so many aspects of her that are like Ashlyn. Like, she's like copy paste in a lot of ways, especially physically. Especially because she looks, I mean, you guys have seen her, she looks exactly like Ashlyn. But there are small glimmers of myself in her, and I see that, and it's cool to see that, but it's like I can't put my finger on what it feels like. It's like, wow, okay, I see a lot of the things that I dealt with growing up. I see a lot of the things that I deal with now, and how you're responding to things. I see some of those things in you, and I have a whole bunch of things running in my mind, like, oh my gosh, is this going to be a cause for concern? How is she going to deal with this? I don't even know how to deal with it, because I'm still dealing with it myself, and remembering that she's going to have to walk through some of those things on her own. And so just being there for her while she's walking through some of those things, like if she's getting frustrated and trying to do something new, keeping myself at bay with trying to do things for her so that she can learn how to have persistence when she can't do something the first time. Because I want to make sure that she doesn't feel like she needs to get stuff right the first time. Like she has leeway. She has all the leeway she needs just to do something over and over until she gets it right. And then even past that, like my course teacher, Mr. Hutchins, once told me, and I mean, he told me a bunch of times, don't do something until you get it right. Do something until you can't get it wrong. And it's not a matter of perfection. It's just saying, like, the 10,000 hours rule. Like, you got to put in the time just to make sure that you're doing the thing in the best way possible until it becomes second nature to you. Don't just do it until you can get it right. Continue to do it until it becomes practice, until it becomes something that you're better at every single time. So watching her get frustrated, I want to jump in. I want to help her. I want to do all of that. But at some point, I have to back up. Teaching her how to hold a bottle when she was really young. She was like 7 or 8 months. And I was staying at home with her at that time. And teaching her how to hold a bottle, and she would get upset when she dropped it, and she would try to move her hands because she was so used to me holding the bottle for her and walking through that process. And now walking through, or not now, but then the next thing, her trying to crawl. She essentially went straight to walking because she didn't know how to crawl particularly, and we didn't have her in like a formal daycare at the time, so she was really around a lot of older people, and she just went straight to walking almost. Like she did some crawling, and then she did some scooting for maybe like 3 weeks, and then she was just trying to stand and walk, which was really cool. She's really advanced in that. But it was frustrating to her because she had to build up those muscles to do that. And so walking through her with that, and then, speech and trying to get her to try new words, and she's trying to express herself, but she can't with words and bigger that she could. So now she's getting upset and frustrated because she can't say the things that she feels like she wants to say. And just sitting with her through it, it just reminds me that, in every season, she's going to be learning something that I've had to walk through. And in addition to that, she's going to be walking through some things that I didn't have to walk through. She's growing up in a different time frame than I did. She's a female, and she's growing up in a different place. And we're doing things in a way that's just allowing her to be a kid. And so she's going to be different than everybody else because she is different than everybody else. She was made differently. She's specifically herself. She's uniquely herself, so she's going to be different. Just rolling with the punches. So how do I deal with that as a person? How do I walk into fatherhood? Well, I was scared. Right? I need to acknowledge that. I was scared. I'm responsible for this person that I essentially have no idea what to do with, right? I just figured out 10 months ago that I was going to be a father in the first place. Now here we are, really 8 months ago, 8 months prior, because February, and then she was born in October. Found out 8 months prior that, she was going to be born, and I'm like, okay, I need to figure out literally how to be a father in 8 months. No pressure, no big deal. How am I going to make sure that, and this is a big one, how am I going to make sure that I'm financially supportive for my family? Well, I need to make sure I'm having a good paying job, and, I'm cutting back on my own personal expenses to make sure that we have enough money to go around, and, we're not just surviving, but we're actually trying to push to a place of thriving. We're trying to do new things, make sure she's having a lot of new experiences, make sure we're having memories made as a family. And yeah, it was a lot to take on at once, and I didn't really have the desire to reach out to anybody because, you know, as a man, there's this propensity to try and do things on your own. Not from a place of pride. Someone's laying in the back. Not from a place of pride, but just because I want to try and, you know, figure things out and work the muscle of failing and, you know, saying I'm doing my best to be here in the way that I know to, and I'm doing my research, I'm looking up stuff, I'm trying to find out the best way to go about just becoming a father. And one of the biggest things that I missed out on in starting that journey was the vulnerability to say I don't know what I'm doing, right? As an expectant father in my mid-20s of trying to figure out exactly how to be a positive role model for this little person, just saying I'm figuring out day by day, and that's okay. It's okay to be figuring it out day by day. As a father, you need to understand that you're not always going to get it right. You're a person at the end of the day. And what you do with your kid will have positive and negative consequences. At the end of the day, nobody's perfect, and there's no one right way to raise a child, except for raising them with love and understanding, whatever that looks like for your family. So for me, for how Sarai is, because she's so much like Ashlyn, I realized that she's teaching me how to be warmer to Ashlyn, how to be there for her even when I don't empathize with the things that she's experiencing, even if I don't sympathize with the things that she's experiencing. Understanding that her emotions are still hers. She should still feel comfortable enough to express herself in a way that's not destructive to her, not destructive to other people, but constructive to say, this is what I'm feeling, and I just want you to be near, even if you can't understand what I'm feeling. Yeah, fatherhood's a trip. It's showing me more about myself as a person than it is showing me about Sarai, and now Aiden too. And for you, walking into fatherhood with that understanding of it's going to be more of a mirror than it is a window. When you look at your kids and see how they're responding, and you respond to them, and then you see how they take that response, it's showing you how you have an effect on them and how you have an effect on the world around you. It makes me more aware, and it's going to make you more aware of who you are if you're humble enough to say, I'm not perfect, I'm trying to get these things right, I'm trying to do as much as I can to make sure that I'm being a positive role model, and, you know, building a household that I'm proud of, building a household that's godly. Right now, what I'm walking through is supporting the household in ways that I haven't necessarily seen done before, all at once, right? I'm blessed to have a father myself who loved and cared for us and wanted the best for us, and I'm just blessed to have him. My dad is a very stern, very hard Jamaican man, and he grew up in a household that had a ton of challenges, and he still came out on the other side trying to do what's best for others. And I can't say that if I had those same experiences, I would do the same thing. I can't say that. And so he had to figure out the fatherhood aspect of his life on his own completely, really just completely on his own. And for him to present himself in that way in that house, I don't know, it's a modern marvel. It really is. And I know some of you are going to have to do those same things, like you didn't have a positive father role model. And you're going to have to do it on your own, but please don't. Please find somebody. Don't do what I did, and try to do everything as far as becoming a man of a house with kids on your own. Don't do what I did. Try and get in community, whether that's through a church, or if you're a gamer, like find some friends online who are fathers, and when you're playing with them, just have conversations about stuff and just try to open up. Join a group. If you have any other hobbies, like you play sports, I don't know, go to a basketball court like twice a week or twice a month, something like that, and just engage with other men. You gotta surround yourself with people who are going through similar experiences or who have gone through similar experiences, just to make sure you know that at the end of the day, you're not alone. You're far from alone. So it may feel like that, and you may have thoughts in your head that come to you that say, nobody knows what I'm going through, nobody knows what I'm experiencing, but there are people that do. There are people that do. So just lean into that a little bit more, especially more than I did. Lean into that. Fatherhood's a wonderful journey. It's nerve-wracking, it's tiring. I mean, you get so little sleep some nights, and that's for an extended period of time. And to be candid, it's something that I wasn't necessarily planning to do right now. But I know that I wouldn't have it any other way. Yeah, I can't imagine life without Sarai now, Aiden. At this stage of my life, I don't know where I'd be, I don't know what I'd be doing, but I know I wouldn't be who I am right now, and I wouldn't be so driven to make sure that our household is going in a positive way. I don't know, I'd still be kicking my feet up, just wasting time. Now, with so little time, I know that my time is valuable. It's a lot more valuable than I put on before having kids. And I'm thankful to both of them for that. I'm thankful to Ashlyn for just continuing to be patient. Because we have to be patient with each other, just trying to figure out this on our own. Like, she's walking through her own things too. She's walking through how to be a mother of one kid, then two kids, and now a 2-year-old and 8-month-old, almost 9-month-old. Every day is different, so we just need to be respectful of each other and be respectful of everybody. And yeah. So what would I say to do in response to finding out that you're going to be a father, or if you're trying to do things differently than you have been? Number one, find community. Please find other people, other men that you can interact with on a pretty regular basis who can push you to be better than you are right now. Number two, stay humble. Please stay humble. You'll realize early on that you don't know what you're doing in a lot of ways. In a lot of aspects, you just don't. And that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. We're supposed to be in a space where we're learning something new every day. You don't know everything. Nobody does. But everybody knows something. So there may be some men out there who are walking through the early stages of fatherhood or late stages of fatherhood who can learn something from you, and vice versa. So being in that community only makes everybody better. Number three, if parenthood is hard for you, just take it this way. If parenthood feels challenging for you, parenthood is only challenging for good parents. If it's challenging for you, that means you're doing your best to be better. Continue to do that. Continue to press in. Continue to lean in. And know that it's supposed to be as hard as it is. It's supposed to be as challenging as it is. It's more of a reflection of our own internal growth as parents, as fathers, than it is of the challenge of just having kids in general. So you're walking through the emotional turmoil of, I'm tearing down the trauma that I dealt with myself, and I'm also raising a kid who doesn't have emotional stopgaps. Yeah, to all my fathers out there, all my expectant fathers, all my seasoned fathers, I thank you. I'm with you. And I love you. Peace.